all the alcohol.
Klezmer music is the party music of the Eastern European Jews. It's not religious music, it's party music. It's the music, back in the day, weddings would last 7 days and different members of the family would host an event for the couple that's just gotten married. And klezmer bands would play for 7 days. It would be a good thing, it would keep us working. And klezmer bands were very often itinerant musicians. Klezmer musicians didn't have very high regard in civil society, even in Yiddish society. You want to be a klezmer? Not such a good thing. Wherever klezmer musicians were, they weren't only interested in klezmer music. Most musicians are sort of omnivorous. So they would pick up, Romanian gypsy fiddling, they would pick up Russian folk songs, and they came to the States and they picked up jazz. What happened to klezmer music? Why does there have to be a revival? Well, one thing that happened to klezmer music was the Second World War, where most European Jewry was wiped out and their musical traditions were wiped out. Although, isn't it interesting? In the Jewish ghettos, they would leave 1 club or 2 clubs open so that the really good Jewish performers could continue to perform and the Nazi officers could come and enjoy the performances. And as I understand it, when Israel was formed, the first thing they wanted to do was create their own culture. They didn't want to reflect upon, they didn't want to re-experience the horrors of the Holocaust. So no more Yiddish music and culture in Europe, no more Yiddish music or culture in Israel. What happened in the United States? Well, Yankala became Jack. Everybody became, everybody wanted to become an American and we became Americans. And then along come these musicians in the 70s, early 80s. Andy Statman, great bluegrass player and a Jew. On the West Coast, there's a group called the Klezmorim. In New York, Capella started. Henry Sapoznik started Capella with Ken Maltz and Lauren Brody. Henry was in a group called the Delaware Water Gap, an old-timey band, old-timey American music. And he's down in North Carolina somewhere. He's sitting on the porch with some old-timey master, and the guy looks at Henry and says, "Don't your people have their own music?" And then in Boston, here we were, a bunch of misfits at the New England Conservatory, and 2 loose electrons in the community. The drummer and I weren't going to school. Play this very formal concert, this very formal Jewish music concert. They played music by Jewish composers. They performed cantorial music. And then at the end, these misfits come and play these traditional klezmer tunes, and people go nuts. And this revival just sort of took off from these different groups. And it was great for us because nobody else in Boston was doing it. And sort of this revival has become more than a revival. It's become not a recreation, but new creation. It's become creation. It's taken what happened before and is built on it and continues to draw on whatever musical forms the host culture happens to have.